On today's episode, world's toughest mudder legend, Allison Tai.
This is the world's toughest podcast. Welcome to the world's toughest podcast, where we talk about any obstacle course race you'd like, as long as that's world's toughest mudder. Each week we talk to members of the WTM community and share stories of success and failure in the single greatest event in OCR. My name is Will Hicks, and this is the world's toughest podcast.
Welcome back to World's Toughest Podcast. Thank you for listening. You're listening to the number one rated obstacle course racing podcast in the world. Because of listeners like you. Thank you for reviewing the show on Apple Podcasts and Amazon.com. Also, Podchaser. If you want to leave a review, check out Podchaser. Today on the show, Allison Tai. Allison is a friend of the show. She's been on many times. She has won multiple podiums at World's Toughest Mudder and other OCR races and endurance OCR races. Allison is the greatest athlete to not have won World's Toughest Mudder. We'll talk more about that in a minute. But first, you can email me, will@theocrreport.com. You can follow us on Instagram at the OCR Report and World's Toughest Podcast. And you can text me at 619-485-2726. Shout out to my text group of buddies. Every once in a while, I don't know, once a week, every 2 weeks, I'll shoot a text to everybody. They'll reply back. It's not like a group text. It's like you and me talking. But anyway, Derek Bequette, shout out, just joined this week. What's up, Derek? Shoot me a text, 619-485-2726. And if you're craving more OCR content, check out the other shows on the OCR Report Network. Overcome and Run, Obstacle Running Adventures, OCR Talk, and the OCR Coven. Overcome and Run, Heather's taking a break, but the other shows are putting out new stuff every week-ish. Let's talk some news. The Tough Mudder Equinox is upon us. Signups are still available. On March 20th, from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. Pacific Time, the newest Tough Mudder virtual race will debut. It is a 12-hour virtual race on a 5-mile loop near your house or your gym or on your treadmill. After each 5-mile loop, you will have an obstacle to complete, which may be an exercise or some kind of activity or challenge. Tough Mudder did several of these virtual challenges last year in the midst of COVID. The obstacles, like last year, the obstacles could be something like doing squats in the shower with water in your face, or doing a wall sit while holding a watermelon or a cantaloupe, or spelling out Tough Mudder with matchsticks on the ground while you are holding a plank position. It's fun stuff. It's a good time. This is the last virtual race Tough Mudder has currently announced. So if you want to be a part of it, sign up now at toughmudder.com. With live in-person events starting up soon, the Equinox is the last virtual race we know about. Is it the last ever? I don't know. Probably not. We know it's not the last virtual event, though. Tough Mudder is continuing their Tough Mudder Challenge program with the Tough Mudder Milestones and the Marvel series of challenges. Right now, you can sign up for the Avengers Challenge or the Deadpool Nerdy 30 Challenge. You sign up, you do the physical challenges, run the distance, do the exercises, and you get a cool coin at the end of the month for your trouble. I did the initial run of the challenges last year. Very fun. And you get cool swag for it you wouldn't get otherwise. Sign up for the Tough Mudder challenges, toughmudder.com. Let's talk Tough Mudder schedule before we talk with Allison. It's already changed multiple times due to COVID, due to different state restrictions. I'm recording this in mid-March 2021. And honestly, the schedule might have changed since I recorded. So be sure to check toughmudder.com for the most up-to-date schedule info for your event. With that disclaimer, let's talk dates. The 2021 Tough Mudder season kicks off in the U.S. April 24th and 25th in Atlanta, Georgia. Atlanta was the most recent host of World's Toughest Mudder, 2018 and 2019. And it is a fun, muddy course. It's got that thick mud too. Not like the Louisiana, New Orleans gray mud, but it's got like that health spa thick mud. After Atlanta in April, the next Tough Mudder is Missouri, May 8th and 9th. There are 2 Tough Mudders in June, Michigan and Boston, and the season kicks into high gear in July. In July, Tough Mudder has 9 events, 5 in the US, 4 in the UK. August and September are also packed before slowing down in October with 4 events and then 3 events to finish the year in November, including World's Toughest Mudder 2021 in Laughlin, Nevada. Again, full schedule details, toughmudder.com. So 4 events through June, between now and June. Atlanta, Missouri, Michigan, Boston. In a normal year, 2019 before, the season would kick off with events in March in the warm states like Southern California, Arizona, Louisiana. In fact, that was the plan for this year. California, COVID and other overly locked down states have changed the plan, but it rebounds nicely in July. The calendar goes strong July, August, September through World's Toughest in November. Actually, that's not true. The schedule goes strong through Tough Mudder Laughlin, which is 1 week after World's Toughest Mudder. Traditionally, the host venue for World's Toughest Mudder has a regular Tough Mudder weekend 2 weeks before World's Toughest Mudder. This year, it's different. This year, usually what happens, they have a regular 10-mile event at wherever World's Toughest is. Take the next 2 weeks off to get everything ready for World's Toughest. This year, they are flipping it intentionally. Kyle McLaughlin, the president of Tough Mudder, told me that he wants the course for World's Toughest to be a fresh course, like a clean course for the World's Toughest runners. So then after World's Toughest, after we go out there and trash everything, a week later, the classic runners can come out and play around on the mess that we left for them. Plus, having that week after with World's Toughest in Laughlin, then the regular Tough Mudder a week later, will allow the international runners, they can have a little vacation week after World's Toughest. Hang out in Laughlin, cruise up to Vegas, go check out Disneyland. I didn't ask Allison about this, but she and her husband used to take their kids to Disneyland every year after World's Toughest Mudder. A little reward for the kids for being a good sport while mom went out and ran for 24 hours. Anyway, this year, the OCR year, the Tough Mudder year, starts later, but picks up steam in July until the end of the year. I keep saying the first Tough Mudder is in April, Atlanta, April 24th, 25th. Yes, but actually no.
Yes, but actually no.
Actually no.
Yes, but actually no.
The first Tough Mudder of 2021 is already done. Tough Mudder Egypt had the first Tough Mudder event of the year on March 5th and 6th in Giza. Like pyramids of Giza. I Google mapped it. You could run Tough Mudder in the morning, drive 30 minutes, and have lunch in front of the pyramids. The actual pyramids. So there's your pyramid scheme. Congratulations to Tough Mudder Egypt and everyone who ran. It's kind of funny. I feel like Tough Mudder Egypt is like 6 years behind us in the US. I was looking at their Facebook page, and the post-event posts by the runners read exactly like they would here in 2014 or 2015. Do you remember how cranky we used to get about race pictures. Let's read some race reviews.
5 stars.
Ahmed Hassan Rihan writes, the Geo Snapshot is a really bad service. Always crashes, and we have to go again through the thousands of photos all over from photo 1. Then it crashes again. You made a great event and ruined our experience with this bad photo service. New runners, am I right? Give it a couple years, Ahmed Rahan. Let me be clear. It's not that the photo service will be better in a few years. You just won't care anymore. Here's how you can tell someone is at their first OCR. And I say this in love because we've all been there. We've all had our first time. Everyone remembers their first time and how it went, how it made them feel. How many did you, at your first OCR, did you have matching t-shirts? Did you wear the worst possible shoes you owned? Duct tape around your ankles? Did you wear gloves? Did you complain about the pictures afterwards? I could go on. I'm not making fun. I wore matching shirts with my brother and sisters in my first Tough Mudder. My brother got a free mohawk tattoo at the start line. It's part of the festival area. That was a thing for a while. Tattoos too. You remember that? You used to be able to get a free Tough Mudder tattoo at the start line or the finish line. I wore my worst shoes. I don't think I ever did duct tape. I'm pretty sure I thought about it. I don't think I ever wore it though. You need gloves for World's Toughest, but you do not need them for most other races. 99% of OCR, no gloves. Anyway, very happy to see OCR and Tough Mudder continuing to expand across the globe, even in these crazy times. One last note, Tough Mudder in the Middle East. March 19th and April 9th, 2 more events in the United Arab Emirates. They've got that warm weather over there in the sand. They'll have 3 events before we even have our first one. So good on you, Tough Mudder Mideast. Well done. I mentioned Allison Tai is the greatest athlete to have not won World's Toughest Mudder. We talked briefly about her race schedule for this year, but as of right now, she is not planning on running World's Toughest Mudder. That means on the women's side, Morgan McKay will defend her title from 2019 against the other best athlete not to have won World's Toughest, Erin Rost. Erin has finished second 2 years in a row to Morgan last year and to Rhea Coble the year before. Is 2021 finally Erin's year? Will Morgan match Rhea Coble and Amelia Boone with back-to-back wins at World's Toughest? I don't know. That's why they run the races. Well, that's not why they run the races, for my curiosity, but we won't know until they do run the races. On the men's side, Trevor Psychos was first in 2019. Christopher Mendoza was second. In 2018, Mendoza was first, and Trevor was second. How will that battle shake out this year? Also, in third place last year was Javier Escobar with his first 100-mile performance at World's Toughest. And Javier is not going to let Trevor or Chris win without a fight. Javier is the equivalent version of Erin Rost on the men's side. For Erin and Javier, it is not a matter of if they will win World's Toughest Mudder. It's just a matter of when. Oh, and I almost forgot to mention. I did not forget to mention. Don't worry. I almost forgot to mention Ryan Atkins will be back this year. Yes, that Ryan, I won World's Toughest Mudder 6 years in a row before I took time off to go win Spartan's 24-hour race 2 years in a row. Atkins. That one. I should clarify, I asked Ryan a few weeks ago what his plans are for Spartan Ultra and World's Toughest. Like, are you going to do one of them? Are you going to do both of them? The Spartan Ultra is 4 weeks before World's Toughest. Not a ton of time to recover and run another 24-hour race. He wasn't sure what he's going to do yet. Race one, skip one, race both, whatever. He's still deciding. But with $10,000 of prize money for first place back on the table this year, and his history of success at the race, I am hoping and expecting Atkins to be there at World's Toughest. World's Toughest Mudder belongs to Ryan Atkins. When Team HQ holds the race, they have to pay a licensing fee to Atkins because he owns this race. One thing Allison and I are going to talk about, the Tough Mudder Endurance Series. The Endurance Series is Tougher Mudder, which is the competitive wave, the first wave on Saturday mornings. That wave is timed, 10 miles long, and is competitive. It's a race. The rest of the Tough Mudder weekend is not. The rest of the Tough Mudder weekend is about teamwork and camaraderie and finishing the event together. There are one of those Tougher Mudders at every Tough Mudder event weekend. Tougher Mudder. Also part of the Endurance Series is Toughest Mudder. That is the 12-hour overnight race on a 5-mile looped course. There are 4 Toughest Mudders this year. Pennsylvania, Chicago, the UK, and Seattle. That is Toughest Mudder. And finally, World's Toughest Mudder, the 24-hour race held once a year in Laughlin, Nevada. I made a mistake my first year going into World's Toughest Mudder. I thought, this is a really long Tough Mudder. And it is. It's really, really long. But it is not just really long. It is really, really hard. The obstacles are harder, both mentally and physically. Do not underestimate World's Toughest Mudder. It will beat you down and make you say, "Please, sir, may I have some more?"
Please, sir, I want some more. What? Please, sir, I want some more.
That is from Oliver Twist. That clip is absolutely everything I know about Oliver Twist. There is a starving kid, and he wants some more.
Please, sir, I want some more.
And that guy with the spoon, if we're being honest here, he's kind of a jerk.
Please, sir, I want some more.
You know what? God bless little Oliver Twist. Is the kid Oliver Twist? I don't know. I don't think the cook is Oliver Twist because he's a jerk, and I really doubt he's the title character. I don't want to spend my time reading a book, learning any more about the cook. And listen, if a kid walks up to you with an empty bowl and asks for more, you give him more. Mean old cook. Hey, who's thirsty? How would you like a nice, cold, Athletic Brewing craft beer right now? Athletic Brewing is high-quality, flavorful, award-winning craft beer. Athletic Brewing stands shoulder to shoulder with any top alcoholic craft beer in quality and taste. Just happens to be non-alcoholic. I know what you're asking. Will, how many calories are there per can? Let me tell you. 50 to 70 calories per can. That's like 2 M&Ms. About. Don't quote me on that. Athletic Brewing fits into any beer occasion, so you don't have to compromise your social life or choose between having great beer and keeping your edge. And when you use code TOUGHEST15, you get 15% off your first order. Order 2 6-packs and get free shipping. What? athleticbrewing.com. Let's read some iTunes reviews.
5 stars.
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 Our first review comes from Joni. Joni writes, 5 stars. I love this podcast. With the new year 2021, races are starting back up, and I love the interviews. The last one with Sean Corvell was amazing. He just Joni, I'm sorry. He just uplifts me. I have signed up for my first World's Toughest Mudder, and I won't be missing a single episode. Thank you, Joni. I appreciate that. Sean Corvell is uplifting. He's very inspiring. There are very few people, you can probably count them on one hand and still have some fingers left over. Very few people that inspire you, or when you walk away from a conversation with them, you feel like a better person, like you want to go out and do some good in the world. So I agree with you. I enjoyed talking with Sean also. If you'd like to be a part of the show like Joni, you can leave a review also. Just open the Purple Podcast app on your iPhone or iOS device, search for World's Toughest Podcast, click our logo, and scroll down to click Write a Review. And I will read it on a future episode. If you do not have an iOS device, go to lovethepodcast.com/tough or amazon.com. Search for World's Toughest Podcast. Thanks, Jonah. Allison Tai is one of the greatest athletes in the history of endurance OCR. She was the 2017 champion at the OCR World Championships 24-hour enduro race. She has finished on the podium at World's Toughest Mudder multiple times, including in 2017, where she had the third best performance by a woman ever at World's Toughest. She's a physical trainer and has developed a program for athletes looking to train for Tough Mudder's endurance series of Tougher, Toughest, and World's Toughest Mudder. It's time to talk with Allison Tai. Let's go to the phones. Allison Tai, welcome back to the show.
Hey, Will, it's been a while.
Allison, it's been a while. How have you been this last year?
Oh, it's always busy, living the farm life and, working with clients and just doing all the stuff that I love and kind of cramming it all into a day. But you can't really complain when your life is filled with all the things that you love. So it's been a great year for me. I know for a lot of people, it's been a big struggle year, but I think in a lot of ways, there's been some positive stuff that spun out from this for a lot of people. So, just me being one of them, it's been nice having my husband home more and stuff like that to help out with things around here. And, we've been able to kind of chomp into some exciting projects here. And it's been overall a good year, a little wonky. And, there's been a lot of terrible stuff happening on Earth, but I think we've been lucky and we've still had a lot of positive stuff happening from it. So.
You have an actual farm, like a literal farm in Western Canada. You're telling me that for your kids, like it's not that they don't know it's kind of a weird year, but like life hasn't been as dramatically different for you up on the farm as it might be for somebody in a city.
Yeah. We tend to, it's easy for us to be like, well, there's been some good spinoffs from this year. Because we live in a very isolated community in Western Canada, as you say. We have 81 people in our town, and we live on 98 acres on the edge of it. And so, we've already been doing the homeschool stuff. And it's actually been kind of funny because we're actually doing more because a lot of that has transitioned to online stuff. So, the drama and the art and all that has been pulled online. So that's been good. We have like our local bowling and gymnastics the kids do that has been affected. And then of course I work online. So that's just been easy in terms of, there hasn't been a lot of changes and the farm keeps us plenty busy and, there's no social distancing with the horses or the goats or the chickens or any of that stuff. So we've had plenty of interactions. They just don't, maybe they're just not as articulated in their conversation. Yeah, we're still just kind of doing our thing over here. And if anything, it's been busy, but I don't know if it would probably be busier otherwise. And maybe that's it's kind of gives us all an opportunity to breathe a little bit as we're following the stay-at-home orders and all that stuff.
One of those new things you've been working on is some new stuff with Tough Mudder. What are you doing with Tough Mudder this year?
So they have developed a number of training programs, and so they've already gone ahead and worked extensively with a really good coach, actually, that's doing their like 5K and classic stuff, so that they're developing programs for people to follow. Because in a lot of senses, our sport OCR has underdeveloped that training aspect. We just haven't quite gotten there in terms of like, how do you train, what do you do, all that stuff. So they're offering these online programs, and much in the Tough Mudder spirit, it's not just like, here's a cookie cutter program that you can follow, go away, we'll see you at the race. They have a Facebook group developed, they're doing lives, it's very interactive, they're really trying to connect people and make it more than just this like training program that they've handed out to you. And I love it because, even just when I was living in the city of Vancouver here, they had, there was training groups, and sometimes they meet, but there was very few people, and, they're kind of spread out. And so we didn't really have that like cohesive training feel where, you're all like living that shared experience of suffering through training and the hard parts and the joys. And, it's just so much better. And I think all of us as Tough Mudder, we really appreciate that camaraderie and the ability to like experience life together. And so it's really cool how they've added in those like layers to it. And then they wanted to develop one for their endurance their endurance race series, obviously. And so they connected with me, and we've been developing these programs so that people will have the same kind of program as they've done with the classic version to train for toughest and to train for world's toughest mudder. And so it's, it's periodized, it's, an athletic training program. And then there's all these extra perks like the Facebook page and that like camaraderie piece and the learning. So, we'll talk about gear and nutrition and like just training tips and racing trips and strategies and all that wonderful stuff in there as well. Because I know even for somebody that's experienced and has done it several times, there's always something that you can learn, and I've been around the block a few times, obviously. And so it's really cool to be able to like condense all that stuff that I've picked up along the way slowly but surely. And, just having the rest of the group, because everybody has something different to kind of bring to it, or some different experience that they've gained insights for that we can all kind of dive into and share amongst each other. So it's going to be really exciting. I'm totally pumped for it, but yeah.
So you're building a training program for the endurance series, Tougher Mudder, Toughest Mudder, World's Toughest Mudder. If someone's listening and they've run a Tough Mudder, they've done several, 2 or 3, regular 10-mile Tough Mudders, and they say, I want to take the next step. I want to run tougher. I want to run toughest. What's the first thing they should do training wise?
So I think the first thing that they should do training wise is look at, maybe where did they struggle more on course. So it's not like, trail running where most of the people come over if they're transitioning from another thing, it's road running, right? In OCR and Tough Mudder, we have people that are coming like from primarily a gym background. We have people that are coming from a primarily running background. So it's like, you need to look at what it is that you need to do to make yourself better on course, right? And a lot of that is what experiences have led you to this point in your fitness, right? And this point in your capabilities out on course. So it's a good way to just kind of like figure out where the course should go next, is just to analyze, if you've done a few events, where it is that you need to put most of your focus on. And then don't ignore the stuff you're good at. If you're a gym rat and you love the gym, stay in the gym, do the gym stuff, but you really need to focus a little bit more on the running, which maybe you don't love so much. And then just kind of build off a program from there. So, the difference between doing a Tough Mudder, say, and a toughest is you're just going to be out there for longer. So you need more time under tension. And then you need to look at like, what are your goals? If you're going faster, not only are you doing more miles, so you need to do more run mileage, but you're going to be confronting the obstacles more. So that's a little bit of an interesting piece, right? With the Tough Mudder training, is that it's not like an ultra beast or something where, you're going to be doing the same amount of obstacles. You're just going to be doing them faster. You're going to be having to do more obstacles if you are faster on your feet. So, it's just kind of putting all those factors in. And I think that's something that the Tough Mudder team and I have done like a pretty good job about being like, okay, so, we have, for instance, the 12 weeks to toughest, and we have a level up lane so that, you could do the regular training. But if you're somebody that's going to, shoot for a higher mileage goal at the event, then you're going to take this level up lane. And that's not only going to have you doing more mileage and more quality work, but also, doing more of the grip endurance stuff and things like that, just higher reps and stuff, so that you're going to be really well prepared to do those obstacles more. So I think, yeah, we've done a really good job of covering that off, but it always, even if you are going to do a training plan like this, helps to look like, okay, truly what are my struggles out there on course, and what could I do better at? And let's put a little bit extra focus on that. And maybe it's just mobility, right? Maybe it's just like, man, it's real hard for me to get in a tube because everything's so tight or whatnot. So just being creative and looking at the places where you might have holes in your training and working off that.
Is there a rule of thumb for how much percentage wise, like how much training of your training should be running versus time in the gym, lifting weights, or, body work stuff, pull-ups, sit-ups, that kind of stuff?
There's not necessarily a percentage. And again, that's kind of where, like, if you've been doing competitive CrossFit for 5 years and then your best buddy took you out and did a Tough Mudder and you're like, man, this is awesome, but I've never run more than 15 minutes in a WOD, like, then you're obviously going to have to put more on building up that base. So long, slow endurance stuff to be able to complete one of these. But, if you're somebody that's come in as a runner and you can only hang on a bar for 10 seconds before, you fall off and grab your forearm screaming, then obviously you're going to have to work more on your grip endurance. But for the most part, you want to be doing, like, you always hear it, the 80-20 rule in terms of the running stuff, is you want to be doing like 80% of your endurance stuff as long, slow, easy, where you can have a good conversation, and then do some quality work in there. And then for the strength stuff, you really want to focus on the movements that are going to translate well on course. So grip endurance, technique and stuff. There's so much that you can do with a pull-up bar that is just not pull-ups. Pull-ups, they're great. They'll help you a little bit, but you've seen it time and time again where somebody can do 20 pull-ups, but they can't make it across a rig or funky monkey or whatnot, just because they don't have that technique and that skill. And it really helps to kind of get your hands wet, obviously, and get up there on the bar. Because that's something that people encounter in course and is a real big challenge for most people that have had, very strength based, where they're maybe getting into the CrossFit gym and chalking their hands up every rep. And that's not something that's gonna pay off on course for sure. So
yeah, they don't have chalk stations right before Funky Monkey.
No, they have like mud stations where they're like, hey, crawl through this mud and then do funky. So, I try to, like, really with the Tough Mudder programming is work that stuff in. So yeah, you are going to be getting your hands wet, when we get close to race time and getting up on that bar and just doing some, different dynamic movements so that you really get ready for that. So it's less, a lot of the programs that have come out up until now have been just very, very, very basic fitness for somebody that just wants to be able to finish, a Tough Mudder and, like, not die. So it's a lot of like, okay, so let's do some squats and push-ups and maybe some pull-ups and stuff like that, maybe a few seconds hanging or whatever. But we've really tried to make this one such that it's very athletic and it'll actually have you prepared to meet the obstacles on course with success. So hopefully that's what comes out of it. And I'm just really excited to see that launch and, see people go through and kind of join them on that journey. And it's going to be really interactive, which I obviously really love too, in terms of just like connecting with people on Facebook and stuff like that and keeping them motivated on their training and maybe giving them some more fun little, what's the word I'm looking for? Fun little challenges that they can add to their programming to, get them moving in ways that would help them to achieve some of the obstacles that we're going to see this year. So
you mentioned doing pull-ups or getting on a pull-up bar with wet hands, kind of prepare you for some stuff on course. Are there any other tricks like that? Things that you might not think of little training techniques that'll pay off once you're on the course?
It's funny because I have a few that just I've kind of figured out over the years. So say, you get a lot of people that they get this like crazy on, like, say, a gauntlet type of thing where their body just starts swinging all over the place. And they can't stop it, especially people that have done like a lot of CrossFit or whatever, where they're on a bar doing that kind of that CrossFit kip. So if they kick up and then down if they pull their knees up real fast and then kick down, it stops them in the swinging and then they can kind of continue on. And just teaching people how to control their hip momentum and stuff on the bar, I think, is really important because momentum obviously can be really helpful, but I've seen in more cases than not that momentum just gets out of control and they start swinging all over the place and it's not doing them any favors. And then obviously lock off is quite important if you're going to be at a course that, has a lot of mud and is really challenging that way. So to be able to keep your arms at 90 degrees and traverse your way across, because so you can get as much reach as a big swing because you're that much closer to the bars, but it's in just such more of a controlled manner. And I think a lot of men do that a little bit more naturally. Women struggle a little bit, unfortunately, with that So it's something that I try to get a lot of female clients to do if they're trying to get to that next level and, do obstacles that are really wet, and they're going to be challenged in that being able to hold them just because they're wet. But even just getting your hands wet or using baby oil, don't do that at the gym or they'll hate me. Baby oil in the rigs is amazing, or just olive oil or whatever it is. And then make your way across that, and you will figure out what works and what doesn't. You don't want to be figuring out what works and what doesn't, when you're hanging over the water on race day and you're like, oh, wait, this is much different when it's wet and I don't have chalk on my hands. So it's just some stuff like that is just really important to put into your training, and just to learn how to use your body properly according to the conditions, because that changes things very, very steeply in terms of what you should not be doing with your body and your momentum.
One of the biggest differences between toughest and world's toughest and a regular Tough Mudder is the overnight hours, kind of the mental battle you fight with yourself. When it's the middle of the night, 3 a.m., and your brain is telling you, why are you doing this? You don't have to prove anything to anybody. How do you, is there any training or any preparation you can do for that mental side of the race?
I think it's important that people get out there in the dark. A lot of people don't. And then even just like if you've been out, whatever, shopping, going to work, and then people are like, oh, I don't want to do my run, right? I think those are probably the more important ones to do, because you're not necessarily at a higher injury risk unless, you haven't slept and they're stressed and whatever. But if you're just tired from the day and you can get out there and maybe it's dark and raining and you can get out there and do the run anyway, I think that's, where you're going to put that real money in the bank for that mental grit to get through the hard times, is just that you get out there and you make yourself do it anyways. And you just kind of like, shut up, brain, we're doing this, and you realize like, hey, it's not that bad. And it might suck for the first 5 minutes, but you know what? That was actually kind of nice. And I'm really proud of myself for doing that. And that's something that happens naturally over the course of racing a number of these long distance events, is that you just realize like, frick, this sucks. But you know what? It sucks for everybody. And the suck is going to slow down and the sun's going to come up and everybody's just going to feel wonderful and great. And I'm going to be so glad that I just shoved that down deep within my soul and kept trudging on. But I think just, being very consistent and getting out there in the weather, getting out there in the dark, getting out there when maybe you're a little bit tired, as long as there's no injury risk, that's where that is really built.
What about somebody who's run world's toughest? They finished it, but they feel like they didn't crush it. What's something they can do to improve on their next race?
I think it's again, just looking at like, why didn't you do well? A lot of people just mentally give up, and that's a big part of it, right? So maybe you can do more of those, like, big mental buildups. Maybe you race way too much before World's Toughest. And that's something I've seen, is people are just showing up exhausted because they've raced the last 10 weekends. So maybe it's just putting more money into the, World's Toughest pot and just really spending that like mental energy there. Maybe, you can look back at your training log and be like, you know what? I didn't get my miles in. Of course, I didn't want to be out there because I was exhausted. Because I was undertrained. Maybe you were overtrained. So it's just kind of like looking at like, where was it on the day of the race and leading up to that, could have prepared you better for all aspects of the race.
How can people find out more about this training program? How can they sign up? What's the status there?
And so I don't think these ones are technically open for the endurance series. I know for like the 5K classic stuff, that's been open for a while yet, but it's basically when you go to sign up for an event that you're going to have the option of joining into the program. And at that point you can sign up there, and it's, it's like super affordable. It's a pretty comprehensive program. And there's the Facebook page for support. I'll be there in case you're like, hey, I've never actually run 3 miles straight. Like, how do we make this doable for me? And we really just want to be inclusive. Like, we'll have a space for you if you're like really hoping to crush it and maybe hit a contender coming through kind of person, or if you're just trying to survive the first time. And, it's just like a Tough Mudder course. We just want to bring everybody in and meet everybody where they're at and make sure that they have their best experience.
What about you, Allison? What's your race schedule for the year? Are you racing? Are you training? What are you planning?
Gosh, the border to Canada is still like locked pretty tight and doesn't look like it's opening anytime soon. So we'll see. I do have, there's a 50 miler that runs on this old trail that I really like. And that I've read a lot of books and stuff on that I really want to do. And it only ever comes every second year, and it didn't come last year. So I've signed up for that, and it's at the end of the year in September. And then my daughter and I are going to be doing some like endurance riding on our horses. And so that should be really fun. I think we're going to try to build up to 100 miles on horses, which is terrifying for me. I'm like, if I could run 100 miles and that's like nothing, whatever, fine, easy. I can get my head around that. But riding a horse for 100 miles is like, oh my goodness, that's a big challenge. So, and then, I want to get into some canny cross. I don't know if you've heard about that. It's like you tie a dog to your waist and then the dog runs. And then they just drag you. And so this guy just ran like a 12-minute 5K in the trails attached to a dog and just crazy, crazy stuff. So I would really like to try that. And if the border's open, I'd love to hit some mutters up. There's one in Seattle and things like that would be really great to hit up if I can find somebody to farm sit for me and all that technical stuff. But it'll all just depend on if the borders are opening or not. But, there's plenty of like just kind of crazy. I did like that pentathlon, the Canadian Championships when they came here a couple of years ago. And I just like doing like silly, ridiculous, fun things. And I think it's just a really cool thing to be an OCR athlete, because you can literally just be like, okay, I'm going to cross country ski race here and I'm going to do this crazy swim thing here. And it's just like, because we're like so well adapted to doing new things and because we're always training in a variety of ways, it's like we can just like pick up and jump into anything. And so that's kind of part of my thing that I really like to do is just look up these crazy, exciting things. And if, they appeal to me, I'll just jump in and do them and see what happens. So it's a perk of the OCR world for sure.
I think it's awesome that your daughter is into, it's not the same thing, but it's like an endurance race. How did you, as a parent, I have kids, how did you kind of get your kids on board with, hey, we're going to do this. It's going to be really hard and it's going to be miserable for part of it, but we're going to do it. How'd you get them on board with that?
For her, she's always just been like, she wants to come and hang out with me and she wants to go do the trail rides. And so she's really excited about the trail ride. And I'm like, if you want to do the trail ride, that's fine. I'll sign you up, but you have to do all the training with me. So I'm going to wake you up extra. And some of the things I do just to be a jerk, but it's like, we have to wake up extra early just to kind of instill that, this is a privilege for you, right? This isn't something I'm making you doing. You don't have to come. I'll go without you. That's fine. This is a privilege that you get to come along and have these. And she just loves being out on the forest, with her. And it does it's been out there where we've been cold and we've gone up to the top of the mountain and her feet are freezing. And I'm like, you sure you want to do this last lap that we have planned? And she's like, it's on the plan, Mom, let's go, So she has that drive and it's just kind of natural. And it's just something I'm never going to push her to do anything. She has to, because with endurance sports, nobody's ever going to push you to do something like that, right? It's like you have to have that burning inside you. And so I just always try to be like, I'm here to support you if you want to do it. But, if you don't and you want to just stay at home and do Lego while I'm up there, that's fine. And she will choose to be out in the forest every single time. But then you also have to make it fun when you're out there, right? And so we'll like sing and eat candy and whatever that she wants to do to make it fun. And I just try to like really like, it's like, look at the view and just, just stay positive. And I think that's a long way in making kids enjoy things.
I have a daughter who is super competitive and I think she's like your daughter. Like, she's like, no, we're doing this. Like, we wrote it down. Like, we got to do it. It's on the plan.
Yeah. It's on the paper. Of course we're doing it.
So
I need to get our steps in.
I need to get her out there with me, I think.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny because we used to do the grouse grind, which is like this, it's a famous kind of mountain climb and you get like quarter mark, halfway, 3/4 full. And when she was like 3 or something, 2 or 3, like barely walking, she was like, I want to do some of this. And I was like, okay, fine. So she walks to the 8th mark and I was like, holy cow, like that's crazy. And she's like having to crawl hands and feet on some of these blocks. It took her 3 hours, but she made it the whole way. Cause she was like, I made it to the 8th mark. I may as well make it to the halfway, and she just like, no, me all the way up. And yeah, she made it all the way up to the very top. And so of course she's like, passing people and like, they're laughing at her because she's like, scrambling on the side of this thing. But, I think once they get, and just like anybody, once they get that kind of like, hey, this feels good because I'm accomplishing something and people are noticing and that, it just really, they'll be hooked for life.
Allison, how can people follow you on social media?
Mostly I'm on Facebook. So if you just look up Allison Tai, there really aren't too many people with my name out there. So Allison, and then last name is Tai. I'm also on Instagram, Grit Farm Fitness Coaching, because this is the name of our farm here is Grit Farm Fitness. So those are the two places that are probably best, or, you can reach out on my website, which is AllisonTai.com as well.
Allison, do you have any sponsors? Anything you want to plug?
No, nothing really. Tough Mudder. Thanks for letting me on this, on board on this programming. It's been really fun, and I'm just excited to kind of launch it and get the ball rolling and see how, it's always just fun to be a part of people's journeys and see how they react to things, and, watch people crush goals, and to feel any bit of part of that is just magical. So, I just got to shout out to them, and that's about it.
Allison Tai, thanks much.
Thank you.
Special thanks to Allison Tai for appearing in this episode. Well done, Allison. Come back anytime. You can sign up for those endurance training programs today at toughmudder.com. Look in their menu for training. Leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. Shoot me a text, 619-485-2726. Will I see you at World's Toughest this year? Better start training now. That's how to get a hold of me. Race Weekend, 619-485-2726. I'll talk with you soon. Go spend time with someone you love.